We are here. We've made it to the 1010 portal. Very exciting stuff. We're very proud of you. There's so much to come, so many things we've been working on in the background with you, of course, it's going to be revealed, and it's way, way more than even you're expecting, to the point where even after we've surpassed your ideals, there will be more after that. We've waited patiently a long time for this. And yet, in the same statement, it's been a blink. Either way, we're so excited that you're here. The secrecy is intentional. It has to be this way. Because of potential interference. At night, I know you remember. Okay? So, those are some messages I'm getting. Today's live will be different, I think, than my typical ones. There's probably gonna be like a lot of little moments of silence. And I'm okay with that, because I'm sending energy codes, like light codes, more than anything today. I've been sitting here for like 30 minutes waiting on it to be the right time to start this live. Everything is very particular at this time. Okay. So they're saying like, you've gotten the messages, right? You've gotten like the signs, you've gotten the messages, you've gotten the pull and the feeling. And I'm hearing like, you're wondering why are you telling me this if it's like supposed to be a surprise and it's not happening yet. And I'm hearing it's to do with like your it's like you have to be aware of it to some extent in order for it to manifest. It's like this version of you has to be aware and like activated with these keys in order for like, I don't know, it to be sent to you. For it to be mailed, like it's like a mailing thing, like it's to be sent directly to this reality. So the number 3 is important. When I was about to press play on the live, like the first time, I felt this energy come on my shoulder, and it was like, it's not time yet. Like it felt off. And so I had to wait to clear it and kind of like see like what was going on. And so while I waited, I was guided to watch this trilogy by Conan Gray. The first song came out June 1st or May 31st, depending on your time zone. And it's called This Song. And then it turned into like a 3-part trilogy that concluded once his album released. And it's like you have to see all 3 pictures or all 3 pieces of the puzzle in order for it to make sense. When I said that, my laptop screen went off. I have it open here. So that's very important. Like stages, different components of something in order to make it a whole. It feels very surreal. Tonight I'll be doing my 10/10 portable extravaganza. I'm very excited about that, but I've been guided to do this first, and I'm hearing now to share this. I'm hearing it'll make sense later. Okay. So, one of the cool things that I'm able to do is kind of like locate. Hi, Simply Carmen. Yeah, I'm able to kind of like locate people. It sounds really weird, but I guess you can kind of describe it as like souls crying out for help. I can like hear them, and like I can pinpoint their exact location based on like my senses. And it's happened a couple of times where I've like not randomly, I can feel someone and I'll go to the location and there'll be someone there that's like sad. And then I'll help them out in whatever way I can. But recently, it's not been like people who need help. I don't know if you heard that or not. There's always these beings walking around my room, and I can hear them, like their movements. Recently, it's been weddings. Yeah, I went to this park. I go to the area pretty frequently because I love the movie theater over there, but I don't always go out to like the actual park area. And I did one day when I was upset, and there's these people walking and there's this guy with the guitar. And I was like, okay, this is Texas. Strange things happen here. There's weirdness. I remember in school there was always just random things. And so I was like, okay. So I went and I sat down, and I was sitting there and I got up to like walk towards the water. And when I was there on the other side, like looking at the water, I was able to turn around like what was behind me before. And the people that like had gathered with the guy with the guitar, it was like a wedding ceremony. And I was like, oh shit, like they're getting married. And like, as I was sitting there, there was this family that came, and it was an obvious like husband and wife. And they had this, I think 2 little kids. And one of them was like a baby, like probably like 1. And the other one was like 3, maybe 2. And the one that was older kept asking the parents to like jump with them and off of these steps. And so they'd count down. They'd be like, 1, 2, 3, go, or like ready, set, go. And I just knew that was like a sign like of something. If you've been seeing like 3, 2, 1, like I've been seeing everything. This is confirmation. This message is for you. And then I went to the movies to see the Life of a Showgirl release party, and my intuition was like telling me to go to Chipotle to change, because I just come from work and I had to change my clothes, and I was gonna change in the movie theater, and I did, but then my intuition was like, you need to go to this Chipotle. I don't know why. So I went to the Chipotle, and I was sitting there and I was like taking pictures, and in front of me was the glass windows, and it was this huge silver lining in the sky, and it looked like the face of a man, like the side profile of a man, in the silver lining. And I can probably make that picture the thumbnail for this after the fact. And so I was sitting there like looking at that. I was like, huh, that's so beautiful. Like, thank you for this beautiful sign. And comes down the road is obviously, again, a bride and a groom. And the woman's like, her train is like flowing behind her, and she's got the veil like behind her. And like they stop like practically right in front of me to take pictures. And I was just like, huh, like, I guess this is the spot for weddings. But then yesterday, my intuition was like, hi. My intuition was like, you need to go to this place to get tea. And I was like, no, I don't want to go there because it's kind of far. I just quit my job. I'm trying to save on gas money. But they were like really adamant about it. So I was like, okay. So I went, and I was having a blast coloring in my adult coloring book, sipping my tea. And I was just, it was so relaxing. I felt so free, and I was getting all these messages just coming through as I was watching Solora Speaks, her channel, her video. She was just saying, and like I would get messages not even related to kind of what she was saying. It just would flow in. And one of them was like, I needed to record a video. They were like, you need to record something. And I was like, okay. And they were like, you gotta get ready to go soon. And I was like, okay. And so I'm thinking I'm gonna go to these areas that I've been to recently, like my favorite park in that area, or this little walking kind of path thing. And then when I was leaving, they were like, no, don't go to either one of those. You should go to this other park pond area that I'd been to, I think in like 2024, I think, like January 2024, something like that. Yeah, maybe even, I think that's the right timeline. I could be wrong. It could be 2023. But I'd been there, like, I hadn't been there in a long time, but it was close by to where I was. They were like, you should go there. And then they were very specific, like telling me, like, don't make the wrong turn, because there's like a lot of turns you can make to go there. They were like, no, you need to go to like this specific turn so you could go exactly to here. And so I had to drive like further. And so I get there to the park, and I'm like, okay, I'm here to record a video. So I'm like, maybe there's somebody here I'm supposed to talk to, like a stranger, and they're supposed to tell me something. I'm like, I don't know, but I'm gonna do it. And so I get there, I park, I get out of my car, and in front of me is this like mariachi band, I'm probably mispronouncing it. But I don't think it's a mariachi band. I don't know. But it was a band, and they had on the cool clothes, and they're playing his music. And I was like, okay, so I'm here to record them. And so I walk over to where they are, and there's this man there already recording them with this fancy camera. And I feel like this is important, This was a big man, a big man. Like he was like NBA size, like giant. He was a big man, very tall. His skin was very, very dark. And I could tell like his energy probably like intimidated a lot of people, or not his energy, his image rather. But I was going by his energy. And I have a lot of people in my family. I'm Black. I have tall with dark skin Black people in my family, so it's nothing to me. And so I talked to him. I was like, hey. And he was like, hey. And I was like, I'm Jabria. And he was like, I'm Jaden. I was like, what? And he was like, Jaden. And I was like, Jaden, nice to meet you. And I was like, is it okay if I like record these people? Like, is it okay? Because I could see he was obviously something professional. And he was like, sure. And I was like, are they children? Like, are they adults? Like, can I make sure they're adults before I start recording them? And he was like, I don't know if they're children or adults, because they looked like they could be teenagers, some of them. I wanted to make sure they were like of age. I don't know why, but I just felt like it was important. And he was like, I don't know. Maybe it was why, because of this conversation. And he was like, this is an event. Like, I got paid to come here to record something. There's this couple. And that's all he said. And I was like, okay. And so I recorded them. And I thought that was it. I was like, okay, somebody wanted to have music in the park. And I walked off. And I was trying to like feel where my intuition was like telling me to go. And so it wasn't really telling me to go anywhere, but I was trying to like figure it out. So I walked off and I recorded this little video of like these leaves on this tree. But I could feel this sensation in my shoulders, like telling me you're in like, like that hot and cold game where it's like hot or like warmer, like that sensation is how I kind of use to like navigate where I need to be. And it was like, you're not where you're supposed to be. You need to go back. So as I turned around to go back, I hear the music come back on. And I was like, oh, okay, like they're gonna play again, like the little band. And I go this other way and I see there's this man that came and stood next to me earlier to record them. He's recording again with his little dog. And so I was like, okay. And I was like, I want to sit here in the grass. So I sat down in the grass, made sure there wasn't any duck poop. And my intuition was like, you should just record yourself here. Like, this is like all these little steps I'm hearing to do. And so I was like, okay, I sat down my camera and I recorded, and I'm just sitting there like listening to the music. And then my eyes like drift back to the actual band because I wasn't really looking at them. And I see there's this couple there. And I'm like, oh shit, this is an engagement. Like that was the big thing. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like watching the woman like realize like, oh, this is like for me. And the guy, and it was a Black couple, which I also think is also very interesting. Like it was something specifically for me, because that area is like, I would say like upper middle class area, if not like lower upper class area. And so there's diversity in that area for sure, because the area I live in is pretty diverse, but it's not a lot of Black people still. You get like a lot of Asian people, typically for the diversity quota in that area. But it was a Black couple. It was a band that was obviously of like Latin descent. And then, like I said, the tall Black man that was also the photographer. He wasn't just tall, he was like a giant, like a little giant. But yeah, it was this Black girl and this Black man, Black girl, Black boy, Black woman, Black man. And she had on a red dress and he had on like all white. And it was so funny because right when he was like, I could see him giving her his little speech, he like bent down to like untie, like he didn't bend down, but he like squatted to like untie his shoe. And I was like, it's like, that's a thing with Black men because they don't want to crease their shoes. And so there's like, I remember seeing this like reel of like black men proposing, and they all like take off their shoes so they don't crease it when they kneel. And so he didn't take off his shoe, but he like untied it. I saw him do something. And then he like went back down on his knee and like popped the question that I'm sure she knew was coming. And what I found so interesting is that like when she said yes, I didn't hear her, but you know, obviously she said yes. She didn't kiss him, but she hugged him. And I just thought that was so interesting. And then I'm like clapping and I'm like, ah, and then there's a car that like beeps its horn, and it's like, it's so cute. And it was just such a interesting moment, because I feel like in the past, whenever I've like the other times I saw like these things happen, the wedding ceremony and then the bride and stuff, I was like in a funky mood the first time. Second time I saw it, I was like, okay, that's cool. But I was like, it's kind of corny at this point, because I'm like, obviously this is a trend now, and I don't too kindly like trends that much, kind of boring. But I was like, okay. But this time I was like genuinely like super happy about it. Like it made my day to see them like getting engaged. I thought it was so sweet. And so these things have kind of been like following me around. Like one of my coworkers, she was like telling me about this weekend she was looking forward to with her boyfriend, going to Colorado. And Colorado, I've never been there, but it's like important to me because my father lives there, my brothers live there, my biological brothers live there. And so like it's like a sacred place to me, but I've never been there. And so I was like telling her, like, when you go on this trip, like tell me all the details, like tell me all about it. I want to know how it is. And like it was just so interesting how we were like, I was dead set on like hearing about this trip. And when she comes back from the trip, she's like, turns out like it wasn't just like what her boyfriend said it was, which was to visit like a college roommate. It was to propose to her in the mountains in Denver, if I'm not mistaken. So she came back engaged, and then like I think I've talked about this other one before. I had like gone to the mall. What did I go for? I think not to find a purse. Yeah, it was to find a purse. Yeah, this was the same night. Oh my God, isn't this so weird? I just realized this. I went there to find a purse. I didn't find a purse, but I saw like the swans again when I went there, like these two swans, and then there was a swan somebody posted on my YouTube. These people that I follow posted a swan. And then that night I met an old crush of mine from high school, probably the first crush I had in high school, Calvin. And he like showed me that like he had gotten married, like he showed me his ring. It was so odd seeing him. It was so weird, the timing of how I saw him. And then when I got home, like from right after that, meeting Calvin again after all those years, him showing me his ring, and I go and tell my mama like, hey, like I hadn't seen her, and she's like, Shay got married, like not Shay got engaged, not married yet, but she was like, Shay got engaged, and I was like, what? Shay, if you don't know, I don't think anybody knows this, but she's like my big sister. She's my cousin that's like a little bit older than me, and I just love her so much. She's like my favorite person. And so after my mama told me that, I got in my room, and Shay starts sending me like these videos of her like getting proposed to, and like it's just been this thing that's been following me around. And I say all of this to say that this is the energy, this is the message. It's divine union. It's like it's this coming together, and it's very, very obvious. It's very clear, and I feel like that's also important, like how obvious it is. It's like this is something that's happening right now. It's the energy, and it's just so magical. So with me here, I have 4 books, but I think 3 of them, excuse me, what I'm going to pull from. These are my favorite author of all time, Sarah J. Maas. And this is the second book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series, A Court of Mist and Fury. And this book changed my life. I remember it was summer and my friend Mad Dog was texting me and she was like, Jabria! She was like, you gotta read this book. And I was like, yeah. Because I think she'd given me recommendations before and they were like, but she was like screaming. And so school starts, I go to the library, I get the first book, and I'm telling her like, oh my God, like you're right, this is insane. And she's like, no, Jabria. She's like, no, Jabria. Wait till you get to the second book. And I'm like, there's no way possible that there's something better than this. Like, I was like, there's no way there's a book better than this book, because it was the best book I'd ever written. Did I write it? Maybe in a different life. I'd ever read in my life. And then I read this one. And as you can see, it's very abused. It's actually broken because I think this is the book that I've most reread ever. I don't typically reread books. I have a very good memory. Memory is very good because I'm so sensitive. I dig in deeply to all the details. So I have very good memory. So rereading something or rewatching something is like rare for me. Like if I rewatch something, it's like very special. And so I would reread this one. And yeah, I kind of like want to talk about the plot kind of, since I have juice in my battery on my phone and this is my account, so I can do what I want for as long as I want. I just saw the page. I was like, I need to find the page because I want to read it. Yeah, you burn inside my memories so well. Caramel, caramel. Okay, so I'm gonna read this confession, okay? But before I read this confession, I'm gonna tell you the plot. So spoilers ahead if you intend to read these books. So, first book, typical shit. Human girl, she's on the other side of this like wall, this invisible wall. And on the other side of that wall is like the Fae people, and they have magic and shit. She's poor, she's starving. She's very good with an arrow. It's like I said, it's pretty typical. And then one day she goes and she kills this wolf to feed her family with her arrow. And apparently that wolf was like a shifter Fae. And so the High Lord of the Spring Court, where that wolf had come from, comes to like collect her for killing one of his men. And it's not until like she gets there to the Spring Court that she realizes that like she's a part of like a prophecy that a human would kill a wolf, and that human that killed the wolf would like be the one to set the Fae people free, because they were all like under this mountain, basically kind of enslaved by this lady. Her name started with an A and she had red hair. I'm not evil, I promise, just because I have red hair like her. Anyways, so long story short, she ends up falling in love with the High Lord. Her name is Pharaoh and his name is Tamlin. She ends up falling in love with the High Lord from the Spring Court, and it's everything. Like I'm telling you, it's everything. It's the best little love story I've ever read. One night he has to like go and do this like ritual thing, and he tells her she can't come because he's gonna be in his beast form. So it's literally kind of like Beauty and the Beast. Like he shifts into a beast, and he's like, when I'm in that form, I won't be able to control myself, and if I smell you, I will like ravish you, and it probably won't be consensual. So don't come. the music starts playing. I think she's like drawn by the music. She also doesn't like to be told what to do. So she goes to like the cave area, and she's kind of like in the trees of this area. And of course, these filthy guys show up, and they have like these sinister intentions towards her. But then, like, before they, like, you know, get to fulfill those sinister intentions, this guy comes up. She describes him as the most beautiful male she has ever seen, but she can also feel like how dangerous he is, okay? And so basically he saves her, like lets her go. She remembers him, but she's like obviously in love with Tamlin. So skip ahead. She fulfills the prophecy. She defeats the lady with the red hair, the A name. But while she's like defeating her, she makes this promise to the most handsome male she's ever seen. His name is Rysand. I believe his name is supposed to be pronounced Rysand, but I don't like that. I always call him Rysand. She makes this promise to Rysand while she's there to like see him for a full week once a month in exchange for saving her life. And so like even though she goes back home happily ever after with Tamlin, that's like hanging over her head that she's like given this promise to this man, like to go with him for a week every month. But he never calls it in, even though he never calls in that favor until the day of her wedding. She's walking down the aisle, and there's this intense feeling inside of her that's telling her, no, don't do this. No, don't do this. And she stops like in her tracks, like she's going down the aisle, and she calls out in her mind telepathically to someone, anyone, like, help me, like, get me out of here. And boom, just like that, Rysand appears, and he says, I'm coming in to call in on my deal for coming with me for a week. So eventually it gets to the point where Tamlin kind of like locks her inside of his house in the spring court where everything is beautiful and sunny in springtime. He traps her in there because he's trying to protect her, and she just leaves with Rysand and his people because like at least like she can work for him freely of her own free will rather than be like prisoned in her own home. And so like that's what's been happening, and she's catching the feels for Rysand. He's showing the feels for her, and I can't believe it because like I've never read a series like this, me and my little teenage self. Like I've never read something where someone can feel so in love with a person and then like have that connection kind of shift and that like not be the person, and then like you can have feelings for somebody else. I never like read about that before, but that's what happens here. And so it's kind of like this teeter-totter thing between Feyre and Rysand. Like it's been months since she's left Tamlin behind, and she's moved on, and they're on this mission to save the world together. And I'm trying to remember, make sure I'm remembering this correctly. Something happens where she ends up talking to this ancient creature, and this ancient creature lets slip that she, Feyre, and Rysand are mates, like divine counterparts, twin flames, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna say mates because it makes more sense in this book. Either way, you only get one mate, and it's like this very intense bond that happens and kind of like locks you in with that person. And you can reject the bond or not. But anyways, and she's furious at Rysand because he knew and he didn't tell her. And so she like goes off and gets some space at this cabin. And this is the scene where like he comes to her and knocks on the door and tells her his story, like his side of the story. Damn, this is a lot of pages. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to read all of this. Ooh. Okay. I don't know if you heard that click. Okay. They're saying it's okay if I kind of skip ahead, but it's still a lot. Okay. Silver gleamed in his eyes and he blinked it away. 3 years ago, he said quietly, I began to have these dreams. At first, they were glimpses, as if I were staring through someone else's eyes, a crackling hearth in a dark room, a bale of hay in a barn, a warren of rabbits. The images were foggy, like looking through clouded glass. They were brief, a flash here and there every few months. I thought nothing of them until one of the images was of a hand, this beautiful human hand, holding a brush, painting flowers on a table. My heart stopped beating. This is Farah. And that time, I pushed a thought back of the night sky, of the image that brought me joy when I needed it most. Open night sky, stars, and the moon. I didn't know if it was received, but I tried anyway. And then Farah goes, I wasn't sure if I was breathing. This is like her internal monologue. Cut back to Raya speaking. Those dreams, the flashes of that person, that woman, I treasured them. They were a reminder that there was some peace out there in the world, some light, that there was a place and a person who had enough safety to paint flowers on a table. They went on for years until a year ago. I was sleeping next to Amarantha, and I jolted awake from this dream that was clearer and brighter, like that fog had been wiped away. You were dreaming. I was in your dream watching as you had a nightmare about some woman slitting your throat while you were chased by the Baj. I couldn't reach you, speak to you, but you were seeing our kind. And I realized that the fog had probably been the wall and that you are now in Perinthian. I saw you through your dreams and I hoarded the images, sorting through them over and over again, trying to place where you were, who you were, but you had such horrible nightmares and the creatures belonged to all courts. I'd wake up with their scent in my nose and it would haunt me all day, every step. But then one night you dreamed of standing amongst green hills, seeing unlit bonfires for Kalenmei. There was such silence in my head. This is Farah thinking. I knew there was only one celebration that large. I knew those hills, and I knew you'd probably be there. So I told Amarantha, Ryzen swallowed, I told her that I wanted to go to the spring court for the celebration to spy on Tamlin and see if anyone showed up wishing to conspire with him. We were so close to the deadline for the curse that she was paranoid, restless. She told me to bring back traitors. I promised her I would. His eyes lifted to mine. I got there and I could smell you. So I tracked that scent and there you were, human, utterly human, and being dragged away by those pieces of shit pricks who wanted to. He shook his head. I debated slaughtering them all then and there, but then they shoved you and I just moved. I started speaking without knowing what I was saying, only that you were there and I was touching you and he loosened a shuddering breath. There you are. I've been looking for you. His first words to me, not a lie at all, not a threat to keep those fears away. Thank you for finding her for me. I had the vague feeling of the world slipping out from under my feet, like sand was washing away from the shore. So this is her recalling that memory of the first time she saw him. And this is back to Ryzen talking. He says, you looked at me, Raya said, and I knew you had no idea who I was, that I might have seen your dreams, but you hadn't seen mine. And you were just human. You were so young and breakable and had no interest in me whatsoever. And I knew that if I stayed too long, someone would see and report back and she'd find you. So I started walking away, thinking you'd be glad to be rid of me. But then you called after me, like you couldn't let go of me just yet, whether you knew it or not. And I knew we were on dangerous ground somehow. I knew that I could never speak to you or see you or think of you again. I didn't want to know why you were in Corinthian. I didn't even want to know your name, because seeing you in my dreams had been one thing, but in person, right then, deep down, I think I knew what you were. And I didn't let myself admit it, because if there was the slightest chance that you were my mate, they would have done such unspeakable things to you, Farah. So I let you walk away. I told myself after you were gone that maybe the cauldron had been kind and not cruel for letting me see you just once, a gift for what I was enduring. And when you were gone, I found those 3 pricks. I broke into their minds, reshaped their lives, their histories, and dragged them before Amarantha. I made them confess to conspiring to find other rebels at night. I made them lie and claim they hated her. I watched her carve them up while they were still alive, protesting their innocence. I enjoyed it because I knew what they had wanted to do to you, and knew that it would have paled in comparison to what Amarantha would have done if she'd found you. So this is Farah now. I wrapped my hand around my throat. I had my reasons to be out then, he'd once said to me under the mountain. Do not think, Farah, that it did not cost me. Rice kept staring at the table as he said, I didn't know that you were with Tamlin, that you were staying at the spring court. Amarantha sent me that day after the summer solstice because I'd been so successful at Calumet. I was prepared to mock him, maybe pick a fight. But then I got into that room and the scent was familiar but hidden. And then I saw the plate and felt the glamour, and there you were, living in my second most enemy's house, dining with him, reeking of his scent, looking at him like you loved him. The whites of his knuckles showed. And I decided that I had to scare Tamlin. I had to scare you and Lucien, but mostly Tamlin, because I saw how he looked at you too. So what I did that day, his lips were pale, tight. I broke into your mind and held it enough that you felt it, that it terrified you, hurt you. I made Tamlin beg, as Amarantha had made me beg, to show him how powerless he was to save you. And I prayed my performance was enough to get him to send you away, back to the human realm, away from Amarantha, because she was going to find you. If you broke that curse, she was going to find you and kill you. But I was so selfish. 1 second. I was so selfish. I was so stupidly selfish that I couldn't walk away without knowing your name. And you were looking at me like I was a monster. The hell is this? Who the fuck is this man? I'm not answering the door. So I told myself that it didn't matter anyway. But you lied when I asked, and I knew you did. I had your mind in my hands, and you had the defiance and foresight to lie to my face. So I walked away from you again. I vomited my guts up as soon as I left. My words wobbled, and I pressed them together. My lips wobbled, and I pressed them together. I checked back once to ensure you were gone. I went with them the day they sacked the manor to make my performance complete. I told Amarantha the name of that girl, thinking you'd invented it. I had no idea she'd send her crones to retrieve Claire. But if I admitted my lie, I swallowed hard. I broke into Claire's head when they brought her under the mountain. I took away her pain and told her to scream when expected. So they did not, they did those things to her, and I tried to make it right, but after a week, I couldn't let them hurt her like that anymore. So while they tortured her, I slipped into her mind and ended it. She didn't feel any pain. She felt none of what they did to her, even at the end, but I still see her and my men and the others that I killed for Amarantha. 2 tears slid down his cheeks, swift and cold. He didn't wipe them away as he said, I thought it was done after that. With Claire's death, Amarantha believed you were dead, so you were safe and far away, and my people were safe, and Tamlin had lost, so it was done. We were done. But then I was back. I was in the back of the throne room the day the adder brought you in, and I have never known such horror, Pharaoh, as I did when I watched you make that bargain. Irrational, stupid terror. I didn't know you. I didn't even know your name. But I thought of those painter's hands, the flowers I'd seen you create, and how she delight in breaking your fingers apart. I had to stand and watch as the adder and his cronies beat you. I had to watch the disgust and hatred on your face as you looked at me. Watched me threaten to shatter Lucien's mind, and then I learned your name. Hearing you say it, it was like an answer to a question I'd been asking for 500 years. I decided then and there that I was going to fight, and I would fight dirty and kill and torture and manipulate, but I was going to fight. If there was a shot of freeing us from Amarantha, you were it. I thought the cauldron had been sending me these dreams to tell me that you would be the one to save us, save my people. So I watched your first trial, pretending, always pretending to be the person you hated. When you were hurt so badly against the worm, I found my way in with you. A way to defy Amarantha, to spread the seed of hope to those who knew how to read the message, and a way to keep you alive without seeming too suspicious. And a way to get back at Tamlin, to use him against Amarantha, yes, but to get back at him for my mother and sister and for having you. When we made that bargain, you were so hateful that I knew I'd done my job well, so we endured it. I made you dress like that so Amarantha wouldn't suspect, and made you drink the wine so you would not remember the nightly horrors in that mountain. And that last night, when I found you two in the hall, I was jealous. I was jealous of him and pissed off that he'd use that one shot of being unnoticed, not to get you out, but to be with you. And Amarantha saw that jealousy. She saw me kissing you to hide the evidence, but she saw why. For the first time, she saw why. So that night after I left you, I had to service her. She kept me there longer than usual, trying to squeeze the answers out of me, but I gave her what she wanted to hear, that you were nothing, that you were human garbage, that I'd used you and discard you. Afterward, I wanted to see you one last time, alone. I thought about telling you everything, but who I'd become, who you thought I was, I didn't dare shatter that deception. But your final trial came, and when she started torturing you, something snapped in a way I couldn't explain, only that seeing you bleeding and screaming undid me. It broke me at last. And I knew as I picked up that knife to kill her, I knew right then what you were. I knew that you were my mate, and you were in love with another male and had destroyed yourself to save him. And that I did not care. If you were going to die, I was going to die with you. I couldn't stop thinking it over and over as you screamed. As I tried to kill her, you were my mate, my mate, my mate. But then she snapped your neck. Tears rolled down his face, and I felt you die. Tears were sliding down my own cheeks, and this beautiful, wonderful thing that had come into my life, this gift from the cauldron, it was gone. In my desperation, I clung to that bond, not the bargain. The bargain was nothing. The bargain was like a cobweb. But I grabbed that bond between us and I tugged. I willed you to hold on, to stay with me, because if we could get free, then all seven of us were there. We could bring you back. And I didn't care if I had to slice into all of their minds to do it. I'd make them save you. His hands were shaking. You'd freed us with your last breath and my power. I wrapped my power around the bond, the mating bond. I could feel you flickering there, holding on. Home. Home had been at the end of the bond. I told the bone carver, not Tamlin, not the spring court, but Rysand. And this is Feyre thinking. Back to Rysand. He says, so Amarantha died, and I spoke to the High Lords mind to mind, convincing them to come forward to offer that spark of power. None of them disagreed. I think they were too stunned to think of saying no, and I again had to watch as Tamlin held you, kissed you. I wanted to go home to Valeris, but I had to stay to make sure things were set in motion, that you were all right. So I waited as long as I could. Then I sent a tug through the bond. Then you came in to find me. I almost told you then, but you were so sad and tired, and for once you looked at me like I was worth something. So I promised myself that the next time I saw you, I'd free you of the bargain, because I was selfish and knew that if I let you go right then, he'd lock you up and I'd never get to see you again. When I went to leave you, I think transforming you into Fae made the bond lock into place permanently. I'd known it existed, but it hit me then. Hit me so strong that I panicked. I knew if I stayed a second longer, I'd damn the consequences and take you with me, and you'd hate me forever. I landed at the night court right as Mora was waiting for me, and I was so frantic, so unhinged. I told her everything. I hadn't seen her in 50 years. And my first words to her were, she's my mate. And for 3 months, I tried to convince myself that you were better off without me. I tried to convince myself that everything I'd done had made you hate me, but I felt you through the bond, through your open mental shields. I felt your pain and sadness and loneliness. I felt you struggling to escape the darkness of Amaranthia the same way I was. I heard you were going to marry him, and I told myself you were happy. I should let you be happy, even if it killed me, even if you were my mate, you'd earned that happiness. The day of your wedding, I planned to get rip-roaring drunk with Cassian, who had no idea why, but then I felt you again. I felt your panic and despair and heard you beg someone, anyone, to save you. I lost it. I windowed to the wedding and barely remembered who I was supposed to be, the part I was supposed to play. All I could see was you in your stupid wedding dress, so thin, so thin and pale. And I wanted to kill him for it, but I had to get you out. I had to call in that bargain just once to get you away to see if you were all right. Rise looked up at me, eyes desolate. It killed me, Feyre. To send you back, to see you waste away month by month, it killed me to know he was sharing your bed, not just because you were my mate, but because He glanced down and then up at me again. I knew I was in love with you. That moment, I picked up the knife to kill Amaranthia. When you finally came here, I decided I wouldn't tell you any of it. I wouldn't let you out of the bargain because your hatred was better than facing the two alternatives, that you felt nothing for me, or that you might feel something similar. And if I let myself love you, you would be taken away from me, the way my family was, the way my friends were. So I didn't tell you. I watched as you faded away until that day he locked you up. I would have killed him if he'd been there, but I broke some very, very fundamental rules in taking you away. Amren said if I got you to admit that we were mates, I would it would keep any trouble from our door, but I couldn't force the bond on you. I couldn't try to seduce you into accepting the bond either, even if it gave Tamlin license to wage war on me. You had been through so much already. I didn't want you to think that everything I did was just to win you, just to keep my land safe, but I couldn't. I couldn't stop being around you and loving you and wanting you. I still can't stay away. He leaned back, loosing a long breath. Slowly, I turned around to where the soup was now boiling and ladled it into a bowl. He watched every step I took to the table, the steaming bowl in my hands. I stopped before him, staring down, and I said, "You love me?" Rise nodded, and I wondered if love was too weak a word for what he felt, what he'd done for me, what I felt for him. I set the bowl down before him and said, "Then eat." I will let that be the end of this. I'll see some of you tonight for the 10/10 extravaganza. The link is already in the description if you'd like to join. Thank you so much for all the likes, for the views, for all the loving support that you send my way. The appreciation that I've received as I've stepped more deeply into loving myself and being myself. I see you, I hear you, I know you, I feel you. And in return, you see me. All right, bye.